What's going on and welcome back. What are the worst cards in Marvel Snap right now? We've had 9 new cards come out since Silver Surfer. We're going to rank all of those today. And what are some key tips that you can actually take away to become a better player at Snap? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's episode of the Snapchat. And guess who is back? Alex, what's up, man? Good to have you back. Happy new dadship.
Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful, and I want to say thank you to everyone for all the kind comments. It actually was incredibly heartwarming, and also huge shout out to Molt for filling in. I mean, Molt literally filled in on like last moment's notice.
Yeah, it made me want to have more guests on. And so again, guys, I want to open up with let us know who you want to have on the Snapchat as a guest. I know, Alex, when I was in the hospital and Snap actually launched as my baby came, I got to play a good amount of Snap, more than I thought, right? Because there's a lot of waiting around sometimes for different things. Did you get to play at all? Did you kind of like have Snap in one hand, baby coming out in the other?
It's funny you say that. My major goal was to catch up on lore. I was reading a ton of comics. I got like multiple books I brought with me so I can read about stuff. And like, I find that so fascinating. But yeah, I did play, but you know what? I actually played poorer than I thought because like it was like 4:30 in the morning and I was so tired. I'm like,
you're like, I'm down 3 locations. It's turn 6. I'll snap, maybe.
I guess I'm snapping. Yeah, this looks winnable. What? I got my Zabu on turn 6. It should be fine.
Well, we've got a extra long season for the month of January. We still have another new card coming out next month. And then there's only so many days left until the competitive/battle mode is here and the card drop. So pretty exciting about what is bound to be one of the bigger updates. So, Alex, what are we going to be talking about on your side of the channel? We've got our subjects on this side, and we have some nice complementative subjects on your side.
We're going to be talking about like predicting incoming card nerfs. I mean, there's likely to be a balance patch alongside the battle mode release. And so we're going to discuss some of the potential balance changes that might occur there. We're also going to talk about our favorite and our most hated locations. I believe this is one of the topics we led with, but we've added so many more locations and so many of them are so hateable. So let's actually talk about those. And then we have, what are the most annoying cards? Not the most powerful, not the worst, but just the most annoying cards, either to play or to have played against you.
Yeah, I think we've got some good subjects today. And Alex, this has been a good month. In general, we've had Shayna come out, Dazzler. So right now, like if you're just queuing up on the ladder, what deck do you find yourself facing off against the most right now?
So I'm kind of like in the 80s range right now. And I'm facing a lot of Silver Surfer. Like I feel like 2 to 3, 4 matches is Silver Surfer. Yeah. And I'm playing Silver Surfer. So it's like, I can't even be mad.
Yeah, it's funny. Typically, you see like the new season pass card the most, and Zabu he's common, right? But yeah, Surferman is probably the most common deck. We're gonna go ahead and start with today's subject, and that is, Alex, we've done this, I think, back in November. The worst cards in Snap. So we're gonna talk about right now, what are the worst cards in Snap, but also which of those cards we think are gonna get buffed, as we should be getting a balance patch in the next few weeks, man, which is always one of my favorite things to come to Snap.
Cozy, I am super interested in hearing what you think are the worst cards, because last time we spoke, we had a couple doozies.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, I think we've got a lot of we didn't get a lot of buffs last patch. We had a few Guardians of the Galaxy and a couple in the Hazmat and Black Cat. So these are the cards that, I think, I went through every card, Alex. I went through every card in Marvel Snap, and I tried to think to myself, when I am testing decks, and I often am doing a new build almost every day, which cards do I just like blaze past, right? Which cards do I truly don't even give a true shot? And that to me is more than an opinion I could have, right? Like the ones that I just never play with, and I'm curious the same. Now, some of them were starter cards, and I think this is going to be an interesting subject. But I do think they need to get a bit touched up. I want to look at some of the more early cards that, it's like we blaze by them and like, oh, I used to play those cards. But I don't want that feeling for any card in the game, right? And so the first one that kind of jumps to my mind are some of these starter cards. And leading that charge, man, it's going to be Angel. I think Angel is such a weird fit. I mean, the only time I talk about him is if you don't have other cards in the Destroy archetype, use Angel. And I don't want that for any card. He's definitely on the list, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like the unofficial actual text of Angel is this card starts in your hand, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's totally unofficial. It's like Yondu, who always destroys America Chavez. It's the exact same in the text without being in the text.
Yeah, like Angel definitely needs help. Like I wonder if this is one of those cards that like just has to start at the bottom of the deck. You know what I mean? Like, is that what you give Angel? Because like if Angel never sees play, that's a problem. It's a good card. Like if you think about it, destroying a card, like let's say you play Squirrel Girl, you throw down Killmonger turn 3, Angel comes flying out. Like that, it's like Chavez, where like you've reduced the number of cards in your deck. Like that's a huge value add.
Yeah, so
But like otherwise, he's horrible.
for one cost, it's interesting, right? I don't know if they'll give him the Chavez treatment of this instance because people then would put him in so many decks if he's guaranteed to be in the bottom, right? Because with 12 cards, it's such a big impact, right? But I do think that if they could just add that he flies out of your hand as well, I think that would solve him and M'Baku for that matter. If they could just fly out of your hand as well, it doesn't feel as awkward. And then you can kind of hang on to him and it feels way more natural. And then if you get him in your starting hand, you're like, great, I'll kind of just keep him there, you know? Yeah, it doesn't solve the problem of like, if you get him in your starting hand, you don't thin the deck out and stuff either. But at least you're able to get the effective free play per se of him, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And like you're so right. Like Angel's such an like he's one of like I've read the first X-Men comic. Angel's in it. And like he's being done dirty. So like I would like to see a change. And I think you're right. A good start's coming out of the hand. I think that's right.
Okay.
That's a good call. Because I think the deck dilution part, or sorry, the opposite, the kind of deck thinning part is by far the most powerful effect. It's one of the most powerful effects in this game. It's a 12 card deck. Right? So I think you're right. That would be overpowered if you started on the bottom. But coming out of your hand, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I think that's like a little change that can happen. Do you have one out the top of your head that's like, you know, could definitely use a little bit of a buff treatment and is currently considered one of the worst cards at the moment?
Yeah, you know what? This might be controversial, but I'm going with Sandman. Sandman, like, there was a moment where like Sandman felt like he had to be played, and even then he felt absolute crap. People are playing Zabu decks or playing Surfer decks, and Sandman still just felt so bad to play on turn 4.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I think we talked about Sandman a few weeks ago. I don't know why I'm struggling to find him, but I know we talked about him a few weeks ago, and it's, you know, I would argue every forecast went up in just the amount they've been played with Zabu, right? Like through the roof. And Sandman's still not. Like he's still skipped over. That's when you know. That's when you know he's got to get somewhat of a buff.
Yeah, like even like 4-2 even, like give us something. Like don't get me wrong, Sandman's one of those cards that I think is tricky. You've mentioned this a bunch of times where like sometimes you have cards that can be like really detrimental to the game long term. I know you talk about negative being like a constant balance thing. This game's about playing cards, and any card that restricts the amount of cards you can play, you know, has to be kind of handled with some sort of grace. So having an overpowered Sandman is probably detrimental to the game, but having this like pretty much useless Sandman feels bad. And so I'm not really sure what the answer is, because like if you're playing a good cards value deck, like Sandman doesn't bother you. If they drop Sandman, like you're playing White Queen, you're like, okay, you just gave a 5 power for no reason, right? But like he should be better. I don't understand, but he feels so horrible to play almost every game.
Yeah, like you can't have him be like, let's say he was a 3-0. You can't have him come out too early because then it's super restricting. However, he does have an ongoing ability, so then if you do play him on 3, then you could just, let's say, Enchantress him and get rid of that ongoing ability, but then you're wasting a turn to help both of you out. Like it's a weird, he is a weird card to nail down. Maybe that's why he hasn't been buffed up because of that. Like maybe he's a tougher one to grab, and that's another pool 2 card for sure. You know, it's funny. I think a lot of the cards that we'll talk about are these kind of cards that they were great at their time of when you didn't have other selections, right? And I think pool 3 and 4 and 5 should open up the game and not like, you know, get rid of, you don't want the power creep or anything like that. Another option or another card that I think is just always looked at, Alex, always looked at as just kind of like, it's a starting card. Hawkeye. Truly tell me, outside of the early days, when are you playing Hawkeye, if ever?
I know. I actually early on, there was an argument to be had that Hawkeye was interesting with someone like Medusa for just a pure amount of power you can set up. You throw Hawkeye blind into the mid location, right? You play Medusa there, and then suddenly like you have a lot of power there. But like that didn't work out so great. Then I was experimenting. Okay, what if we play Hawkeye into the left safe location that we actually know, and we follow up with like a Domino? Is he still good? Right? You're always gonna have Domino. Still never felt right. Like I think you're right, but like if you make Hawkeye a 1-2 and he becomes a 1-4, is that too strong? Like, what do you even do with this guy?
I don't know. It's almost like he just doesn't. He's another one where it's like, does he? Like, does he even belong with the one cost? He's just a weird card. He's a weird card as far as how the flow of the game kind of works and like what you want to do. Because 2 cost, man, there's so many things with 2 cost. There's so much great options to be had there. And so is it a power adjustment? Is it an overall cost adjustment? Is it an ability adjustment? All I know is like, who am I kidding? Both these guys together, I skip past them. They don't. There are just better options in the game right now by a good amount in all archetypes, right? And especially Hawkeye, who's supposed to be semi, plug and playable into a lot of different kind of decks. And it's funny because you brought up Medusa. Talk about another, starter card. And when I look at Medusa, because you have to play her in the middle, I'm kind of like, why not just give her 1 extra power? And here's the thing, right? Because she would be pretty crazy at that point. She'd be what, a 2-5? Not really, what, a 2-5, right? Which is, if you look, that's high, bro. But you have to play her in the middle. She's another one that she's a starter card that doesn't get play. It just does not get play currently.
I think that someone at Second Dinner hates the entire lore of the Atilian, because Black Bolt's terrible, Medusa's terrible, Crystal's terrible, and they're all the same family, right? And then but Maximus is there too, and Maximus is pretty good.
When I met Alex, he was just a wee Marvel virgin. I mean, you did not know Marvel, and now look at you, man. I am impressed, and I love it, dude. What a pull.
I'm reading a lot. It's good. It's entertaining reading. What can I say?
Dude, I'm impressed. But yeah, so starter cards, guys, definitely think need some work. I've got a couple other ones that I'd like to talk about. Do you have anything that comes straight to the mind?
Electra is one of those cards that when I have her, I find myself using it. Sunspots get eaten by Electra. But because so many people skip turn 1, and they don't play any cards, and you can't even tempo her out on turn 1. It's a turn 1 card you hold. I feel like she needs to be a 1-2 just to be you know what? They're playing Surfer. She just needs to be on the board, right? As a 1-1, she feels so awful. But yeah. I can see why her trading with a Hawkeye who's a 1-4 or 1-3. I can't remember what Hawkeye is. He's 1-3, right?
Hawkeye will become a 1-3, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's how forgettable Hawkeye is. Anyways, I feel like Electra needs 1 extra power. She feels terrible. Having her in her deck feels terrible.
Because surely you can't make it where she can destroy random 1 or 2 cost cards. So, you know what I mean? You can't make it to where she destroys too much value at 1 cost. But and I also think we'll see cards like her down the line that can kill a random card, whatever. But yeah, she's definitely another great example. Card that I played a lot of Electra when I first started, actually. And then you get Killmonger and you're like, okay, I get to help myself with Nova. I have a counter to what they're trying to do. And she only hurts the enemy's 1 cost cards. But there's really not a lot of instances where you're trying to direct for that outside of a Sunspot, which again, probably Killmonger at that point, right?
And the other side to it is with Electra, when you have her, the meta revolves around Zoo.
Yeah, so definitely, I think we're seeing a recurring theme. A lot of these starting cards. Now, here's some cards that I think are a bit more conversational, right? I see a lot. I see stuff that people want to see buffed and nerfed all the time, and I have more common ones to talk about. But let me go ahead and just shift gears. Let's see if this stirs up a while. And it's really not that big of a buff to her. I personally think that Agatha could be a 615 or higher. Because I think that right now, because of how stupid Agatha is in this game, her AI is that of garbage. Why not get the bigger payoff? Now, I do understand you can Lady Sif, you can wave. There are ways to get to cheat her, and you'd have to figure that out. But I don't know. There's some type of way I think that Agatha can become a bit better, or we just accept she will always be a meme deck, and there's that kind of option too.
I like the idea that in Marvel Snap, any card should be able to be competitive. So I agree with you. I don't think Agatha is truly competitive. I think that I know there are players that have gotten to infinite with Agatha,
Plenty.
But I don't think it sounds very plausible. I feel like there is it's very, very, very difficult. But getting to infinite's difficult anyway. But I think you're 100% right. Agatha feels like a meme. And I think any card and every card in Marvel Snap should have legitimate pedigree. I feel like you should never feel well, I'm playing Agatha, therefore, I'm going to lose. And if I win, it's a meme. I think you're right. 615 feels about it. Does it even feel right? Like, is that even enough?
So,
Or I don't know.
I think that's okay. I have seen really no one talk about an Agatha buff, but when I ranked all the pool 3 decks, you know, every time I do the same thing, and when I did the pool 3 tier list, I'm like, Agatha, it's fun, you know, and then it's a terrible card. And you're like, okay, cool, but maybe we could adjust that. And I don't see that talked about. And so are Agatha decks dependable? You know, I'll be honest, they're not always the worst if you have a way to get them to work. And again, it's Wave, Lady Sif, Ghost Rider. But yeah, I think, you know, is it supposed to be an infinite deck? I don't know, but it could be a lot better. Let's put it that way. And I never see the card really anymore. I don't see Agatha decks much anymore either, which is sad as well. So I've got Agatha pretty high up. And then you've already, you touched on one of the cards that Alex, I think could be one of the lead contenders of getting a buff this next month. Because next month is pretty much deemed like discard month. I think that Black Bolt, this is it. I think we finally get the Black Bolt buff that we've been waiting for. Let me just go to discard to make it easy. I mean, we all know it by now. Talk about another just legendary card. Man, Black Bolt is... I want to use him. I want to talk about one of the best variants in the game and just a cool card. What are your thoughts on Black Bolt?
I'm actually using Black Bolt now because with the featured location, like I'm knocking out deaths. But with that being said, I don't know if he can be a 5/9. Like it's one of those cards that like 5/8 is strong.
Yeah.
His effect can be strong. However, I think it's one of those cards that probably has like a design landscape consideration where like there might be future cards that make this card more viable, or there might be something like Second Dinner hasn't touched him, right? No, I shouldn't say that. They buffed him by 1 just before launch, right? He was one of the ones that got touched up with Arrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I bet you they have a plan for him. Like, I think the effect is cool. Maybe it's more like Moon Knight and it just gets rid of some card in their hand. But is that even worse?
So this is what I think that they should do with them. It's really not. I think you said that well. It's not that a 5/8 is bad. Here's the problem. It's the same problem with 2 cost that they're constantly adjusting. It's not that 5/8 is bad. It's if you look across, and we've talked about this before, if you look across 5 cost cards, it's so competitive. I mean, seriously, 5 cost cards are the best pretty much in the game. I would actually say it's the best cost in the game, even to 6. Like, you have just game-changing cards in here, right? And so even though the stat line is good, right? Like, do you want to extend a turn? Do you want to mess them up with Doc Ock? Do you want to lock down a lane with Professor X? Arrow moving. You can have Vision for portability. Captain Marvel, Valkyrie, Claw, right? The stat line is fine, but when you compare it to this, so then maybe the answer is you reduce his power and then you take him down to 4 cost. Or maybe it's, you know what I mean? I think that there is room of a cost reduction, quite possibly, or even increase, that could give him more play. Maybe, again, like you said, Second Dinner has a plan for him. But maybe that's what you do with Black Bolt. These are the other few buffs that I think are actually possibly going to happen. And look, the other Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Groot, Drax, they had their changes, and it wasn't like earth-shattering. I think it feels good. It kind of fits in. You know, I think maybe we could see our boy Star-Lord go to a 2/3 with a +2 power if you play him on the right turn. That feels like a good change for the Guardians. I liked what they did with Groot. I don't see why not just do it with Star-Lord. 3 is a good stat line, but it's the same as armor. And then you're not risking it. And I want to play more Star-Lord. It's one of my favorites in like the MCU and everything as well. So I think this is a realistic change, Alex.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that totally makes sense. I'm surprised they didn't change him. They must have some sort of metric. Like, is he being played more? Like, I don't think so.
No, and I don't think you could do Rocket just because of that way it works, or Mantis. But I do think you could do Star-Lord, right? So it's this. I think Star-Lord fits the mold. A 2/3 is completely fine, and then the 2/5, you're like, awesome. Like, you know, you feel good about getting it, but it's not the end of the world. I honestly think we're going to see this one either this month or next month, Alex. So yeah, Star-Lord I have on the book. Here's another 2 cost that I'll be honest, I've been playing more and fitting her into my decks, and it's working. I just think maybe something has to change to add her to more decks because she's definitely underplayed. Do you have an idea who I'm talking about?
I mean, you're putting him on the spot, but like the one that sticks in my head is Okoye.
Yeah. Oh, I do like the Okoye pick. No, it's actually Quake. Now, Quake is interesting.
Okay.
I've been playing Quake a little bit more recently and finding some good use from her, right? Like with these kind of like there's a lot more negative locations per se out there, and Quake kind of solves that issue. Or you're playing an ongoing and Onslaught Citadels there, or on reveal Kamartage, and you're like, hey, nope, and you just switch everything up. It's honestly a lot better than I have given it credit for, and I think she is underplayed as a whole. Does she feel correct? No, and I think it's because she falls in the last card that we would talk about in Crystal, who clearly at this point is regarded as the worst card in Snap.
Filth.
Yeah, so it's like her, and both of them have this middle play location mechanic, which I think is super awkward about them. Crystal's bad because hand draw is just so important in Snap. Crystal's bad for more reasons than one. Quake's almost there. She's almost there, Alex. I just don't know what to do to make her feel just right.
I have a counter argument. I think Crystal's okay from that perspective, because I think there's going to be times you don't want her to shuffle the hand.
Okay.
Right? So playing her on the edges is like beneficial, because if you're like, oh, I got Triskelion and it's you have your Devil Dinosaur and you don't want to actually cycle your hand, but you want the power on the board. That's an awful example, but you get what I mean. There might be times where you don't want to cycle your whole hand. But with Quake, I think the major change that completely changes Quake is if the rotation of the locations is predictable. Like if it always does a specific pattern. So then when you have Quake in your hand and you say, oh, Onslaught Citadel's on the left, it's going to move to the right. Like it does a shuffle. So you can start playing your Wong mid. And they're like, huh, what are they doing? And then you switch it, but you've set up your board to take advantage of the switch.
Yeah, and
if it wasn't random.
And honestly, I like that because like Heimdall does the movement there, but I like the idea of more location. Locations have so much RNG in this game, so ways to kind of more have that more predictable. And then here's the thing too, like let's say if it's all to the left and Bar with no name is the one that would move to the middle, well then you can't really play Quake in the middle or whatever. You know what I mean? So it still has that con to it too, which I like, and it has that kind of weird feeling. That's not a bad idea. I think that's definitely in the cards of what could make her a bit more viable. But I will also campaign that I think Quake's better than we give her credit for. And to try her out, I think she's a lot of fun. And at the top of the list, me and Molt talked about this. Nobody expects it. Nobody expects Quake.
No one expects Quake.
And I love that about the card. So yeah, Quake, Crystal, yeah, garbage. We know that. And I was going to lastly touch on one last one before we go to our next subject. Our last card that I want to talk about, and this guy is on the fringe. He's right there. He's right there with should he be somewhat adjusted. And at first I was looking at, Captain America, but I think he does the right thing. I think he feels pretty good. But you know who I think doesn't feel that great of a card is Punisher. And he was another one. I'm like, I kind of skipped past him, even in the Silver Surfer meta.
Yeah, I think there has to be math with him that him and Captain America are like perfectly countered. Like perfectly counter synergist, not counter synergist. What's the word I'm looking for? The value of them is equal. Like if you have a Punisher and they have 4 on the other side, he's a 6. If you have Captain America and you have 3 cards with you, he's a 6. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think that's why he's a 3-2.
100%.
Because the Captain America. So if you have to buff Punisher, I think you buff Captain America as well. Not necessarily because Captain America, you have control.
You control him. That's the biggest difference.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you think you're right. Maybe a 3-3 because then they have the agency of how much power they give the Punisher.
Well, and if you think about it, right? So 3-6, right? Okay. But then Mojo's a 2-8, right? So, and it's the same. You have to have all 4. So it's kind of if Mojo's a 2-8, then surely the Punisher can be better at a 3 cost. That's where I kind of want to see it. I get it. Sometimes I think trying to be fun and thematic can be an Achilles heel, right? Of like, well, Captain's this way, let's have him the exact way. Sometimes that kind of feels weird. I know they messed that up with the Avengers. They used to be 1 cost Hawkeye, 2 cost Black Widow, and then Thor kind of messed things up with his cost adjustment. Sometimes you can't just go thematic. But definitely, I wanted to try to talk about ones that aren't often talked about in things that I see so commonly placed, right? But Alex, that takes us to our next subject, ranking the weekly new cards. Now, guys, we're not going to do another Pool 5 and 4 She-Hulk rankings. We've done that a lot. We've done on my channel. Alex, I think you've done it as well. What I want to talk about is with all these pool drops, I want to talk about tokens in general in the new cards. We have 9 cards. I put in Surfer and Zabu as well. Don't have Black Panther. Which cards should you instantly unlock, or they would be worth that price, right? Worth it at 6,000 tokens, like potentially worth it. We have the wait till pool 4 drop, wait till pool 3 drop, or it's just completely garbage, right? So I think this is interesting because it brings up the discussion of mainly, do you wait till pool 4, like Sherry, or do you wait till pool 3 ultimately? Now, for the 2 season pass cards, I think we're going to hold on to that main discussion on when we talk about upcoming nerfs, because the Zabu versus Surfer discussion is a lot of fun to have. I think they both could qualify as potential instant unlocks, but I also think there's some different takes on that. So let's start with Shayna, the She-Devil. And Shayna, I think it has come across better than people expected, right, Alex? But off the bat, you know, S through the D tier here, where do you place her? Because I think this, to me, is definitely a wait until pool 3 drop.
I agree. One could make the argument that you could wait till a pool 4 drop. Like if, like, you know, you've been buying bundles, you got the tokens, and you like the play. Because I think she's a very interesting card, and I think it's not like in the same sense of like, I think we kind of misinterpreted a little bit. I have been thinking about this card a lot since it came out.
Same.
And I wonder if the actual play is playing her on turn 6.
It
Right?
definitely is, yeah.
And I think people are kind of sleeping on that. Like the idea of playing her on turn 6 and just like, whoa, it's kind of like it has this Doctor Doom effect. But you have Blue Marvel out. You've got Kazar out, right? You probably have Zabu on board, right? So it's like, so she's a 2-cost. You get to play something else with it too, right? So I think you could definitely unlock her pool 4 probably. But I think you're right. The safest bet is to just get her pool 3.
Yeah, because what's crazy is she's 4 costs, and on turn, especially if you're like Sarah, you can get like so much power at once on that last turn. Like she's way better than people give her credit for. I have her in the pool 3. I will probably get her in pool 4 because of Dazzler, and we'll talk about that. I think I want her for Dazzler so bad, and I think there's this kind of new-ish Zoo kind of archetype forming, even on top of Zoo currently. I think for the majority, though, just token-wise, comparable to everything else out there, I would personally wait until she probably gets to pool 3 as a lucky drop.
She's C tier. Yeah, I agree.
But she's I would argue both though. I do. We might adjust that, right? So the next card on the list is the only one that has not come out yet, and that is Shadow King. It says 6/4 here. They adjusted him. He's actually a 4/3, and it sets all of the cards back to their base power at a location. And this is a new tech card, which I think is always interesting to have into the mix, right? And for that reason, I probably have for the general, you know, Snap community, he's one that I would consider at a pool 4 drop for 3,000 tokens. To add something to the arsenal is kind of nice. And then again, Zabu, you now have Enchantress, Shang-Chi, and this guy, all going to be effective at essentially 2 costs if you do have Zabu. What are your thoughts on Shadow King?
I think I can see the sell for him being a B tier unlock for pool 4. I would probably wait till pool 3 because, like, for me, it's like, okay, like, what are you really doing? Like, yes, obviously the Ultron Patriot list get dismantled, right? Like, it has utility. There is definitely like some great utility with this tech card. But at the same time, if they're doing Shuri into like Red Skull, just use Shang-Chi. We have a tool for that. Just delete the card. We don't have to reset it. Delete the Red Skull. Just get rid of it. You don't need to reset its power.
There's some that skate under that just a hair, like if like a 1 pass of Brood Silver and a few other instances. We've talked about it before. Like, does this affect ongoing abilities? And that's going to be kind of a major play there. And it also like just depends on what decks you hate losing to. You know what I mean? I think that's such a huge impact. But yeah, you're right. As far as like the super power decks, you know, Shang-Chi away. But then if you have 2 tech cards now to handle that, I kind of like that. I kind of like having a better chance to pull, kind of always having a turn 6 potential option. Shadow King's one that I have been waiting to unlock. Definitely for me, I will buy him day 1. And I think tech cards are super interesting to have as new cards coming into the game. Next, Century, and I'll save us, you, me, the viewers, the listeners, all the time. We're not even going to talk about him, really, bro.
Garbage.
Just
garbage.
Even with Zabu, man. Even with Zabu, the best you can do with them, and I have him, I've had him for a month, is if you get Zabu, you could play him, and then you could play Viper for 4 costs and send a -8. But dude, you have to have so many things. Locations go right, have the right cards in your hand, have the right play, not have Cosmo on sides, not have... He is such a weird card, man. He's garbage. You know, obviously, I guess garbage and wait till pool 3 drop are kind of, you know, they're not the same, but they're also, you know, if you pull them in pool 3, awesome. You're still not going to use them that much. I don't know. He's a weird card, man. He's a weird card, and I'm going to keep trying him, but I do not like him at the moment. Next card, we have Sauron. Sauron. What are your initial thoughts of Sauron? What do you think?
I mean, to me, this seems like a B tier. Something that you could probably wait till pool 4 drop. It is probably better than that, but I'm taking into consideration how scarce tokens are.
Yeah.
It's a good card. This is a good card. But to spend those tokens, it really, like, it fits in only a very particular archetype. It doesn't have the universal appeal of perhaps some of the cards we're going to talk about shortly. Yeah. So it's like, I'm okay with it being in B tier.
He's that weird feeling to me of like, if you play 0 and that's your thing, he's an unlock. You know, he's a good card with 0 decks. Period, guys. He is a good card with Red Skull, Typhoid, Lizard. Seriously, the guy is insane for what he could do for 0 decks. However, it's like if you compare that to Shuri at the same cost currently, it's like Shuri's great for 0 decks too. I would have him here. Like, that's why this kind of exists. However, I would say even as a 0 fan, to just have those tokens go a further amount, get him at 3,000. Like, wait the month. I'm a 0 fan and I didn't get him. You know, I think there's just better cards to get out there in majority. And again, I'm always going to go bang for buck. I'm a big 0 fan, but I'd rather have, like, Dazzler. I'm a big Patriot fan, but Dazzler works in multiple decks. Sauron is limited to like 7 cards, bro. You know, that's my opinion. And I think you did good there. Noel, do you have Noel?
I don't. I was going to unlock him, but I didn't have Galactus, so I was like, I kind of want to unlock Galactus naturally.
Yep.
Even though, like, now that I'm in, like, the 80s ranks, it's like, I just playing Galactus decks nonstop. It's like, come on, I want Galactus. I want Galactus you first.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think Null is pretty interesting. I think it's surprisingly better balanced than I originally expected it to be. I thought it was going to be shattered.
Yeah.
And it's not that good. It's good. It's damn good. But it doesn't, like, you don't see it in, like, Death Wave Destroyless the way you see it in Galactus.
No, I like Noel. Noel is very interesting. I think he actually works out pretty well. He's that card that, like, Galactus, man, he's a game changer. He's so good. No one expects him. That's Noel's biggest, like, punch up. Nobody.
100%.
I have played 1,000 Galactus games now, and I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh, he has death. You know, I've got the bigger play. And I'm like, dude, I have a 40 bomb Noel just waiting to slap. Like, it's insane. It's really good. And I do like Noel a ton. And especially if you can cheat him out early. I had a game where I've mystiqued him. And he's nuts. I do like what he's got going on. As far as if you have Galactus, and you Galactus and Noel together, I would unlock him whenever you can. If you like Galactus and that's where you're playing.
Yeah, if you have Galactus, he's S tier. Like, basically.
Yeah,
he is like
card.
a pinpoint perfect card for that deck.
But it's so weird because Galactus has other cards that are just fine. Like, Galactus is usually not a power issue. It's a tech and initiative play. You know what I mean? So you can just Shang-Chi or you can Valkyrie and do the exact same thing. So it's like, it's just a better, sexier Galactus play at that too. So it's weird. It's like a weird card as well. I'll probably put him, probably wait until pool 4. Not pool 3. He's worth 3,000 tokens in my opinion.
Yeah, he's better than Shayna probably.
Better than Shayna. I would agree too. But Shayna is getting better by the week.
But Shayna may be better than we're giving it credit for at the same time.
Yeah, Shayna.
We'll have to do this again.
I like Shayna. Yeah, we will. And well, that's the fun thing. We could definitely revisit. Dazzler. I've got her. Brand new. Too early to speak a ton on. Definitely not worth 6,000 tokens. There's no way. There's better cards out there. But she's solid, man. I think she's so good because of the way that she works with just, I fill up so many of my game locations, right? You have to do a little bit better of a job, but I've noticed how many cards truly fill up the board if you want to. Like Squirrel Girl, Mysterio, Sinister, Brood, and then that already works with Silver. So you're having cards that fill up the board, but they also work in meta decks, which I think is something to be spoken to. But right now, I like her so much because she's so surprising, and she will lose that, right? She's gonna lose that eventually. So yeah, I don't know, guys. I want to put her. It's too early for now. I'll say be safe. I'm gonna say wait till the pool 3 drop.
I think C's correct, especially when you consider Mojo's 1,000. Like, Mojo's 1,000. This is 6,000. They're not the same card, but Let's be honest.
100%. And guys, I might come back and be like, Dazzler's the best thing that ever happened in the game. For now, though, C.
Sounds like buyer's remorse.
Yeah. And then we'll make this quick. We don't need to talk about it too much because we'll talk about this definitely on Alex's side of the channel. Darkhawk right now is the instant unlock. He's the Shuri if you could have bought her and had the foresight to get her as early as you could. Darkhawk is something else. He's something else.
Yeah.
He's a value
Darkhawk's
card.
amazing.
He's amazing.
I unlocked it. It's great. Like, it's a 4-1, and then you just Mystique it. Mystique's a 3-0. Like, it's so good. It's just so good. It probably needs to be a 4-0 minimum. Like, it is such a good card. Like, it is really good. And you get to activate Rock Slide. You get to use Korg. I love Korg. And it's like, it's just a good card, like, all around. All around, it's a good card.
Yeah, I love Darkhawk. Darkhawk, when you get a card that is, he to me feels like if you had, and it obviously isn't, but if Devil Dino was in a pool 5 card, I would say the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, you get to have a card with value all the time, and it's like that you can control, and that's the other thing, right? Because Ronin is fun. I do think Ronin has his weird spot, and he's the definition of a card I think that Second Dinner has their eye on to do stuff with the future with. You know, I would like to see ways to, so this is, he gets better as you add cards to the opponent's deck. I would like to see a card that gets stronger the more cards you have in your deck to have a counter to Darkhawks out there. I think that'd be an interesting take, an interesting thing to see out there. But yeah, this is definitely right now. We had some in the A tier. Right now it is empty to our audio listeners. But this is kind of what I am seeing here. We've got Shadow King, Sauron, and Null in the wait until pool 4 drop. Pool 3 is Shayna and Dazzler, with honestly Shayna probably being able to go up to B tier. And Sentry is the biggest, like, if you pull him, he's one of the only ones that if you were to get him in a collector's thing, I'd be like, oh, dang it. It could have been any other card, you know? All right, guys, so that takes us to the last subject. We've talked about this in bits and broken up before, but this is Snap, right? This is one of the key things that I want to continue to encourage people to know, and that is, what are the core essentials, Alex, to become better at Snap? What can you do? You see the new cards, you see everything. How do you start climbing better? Forget Infinite. Let's just talk about how you can start climbing better at Snap, or you feel better and feel like a better player, and some of the takeaways. So today I'm going to give Alex some prompts of do you snap or not snap in this situation, as well as just
We get exposed right here.
Hey, no early judgments. And I also want to hear what, like, yeah, in the comments on YouTube, guys, if you guys would snap in the situation, that'd be fun as well. But let's talk about how do you actually get better at the game, right? New cards, yes, I get it. I think it feels bad not to get them for the fact that they're the new flair, right? But let's talk about, do they make you a better player? If you have Darkhawk, can you just ease your way to Infinite? No. You know, I asked Molt this, but how much percentage of 100% would you say decks and the deck you play attributes to how good you are at Snap, or your potential to climb?
I would say 25%.
Okay. I think Molt said 30, so that's great. Yeah, 20, 30%. I think it's somewhere in there. You actually, you have to have a decent deck. However, guys, what I want to talk about is the other things outside of the deck that are more important. So if that's only 30%, that means 70% of the other things that you could learn to be a better player in Snap. And that, I think the biggest one, and we've touched on it before, but is learning to predict what's happening. The more you have knowledge of what's going on in any match is going to help you. Now, we're going to talk about snapping, but these kind of coincide together, right? Alex, for me especially, your snapping is going to be a result of knowing and predicting. It's all about predicting the power of what they can potentially get, predicting the power that you can get. What cards do they need to complete combos? What cards do you need to get your combo off? And then what is possible in turn 5 and 6? And then you add in tech cards into that, right? So that is, to me, man, that is at the top of the list of important.
Absolutely. And it's crazy that you mentioned that because, like, so this sounds a little strange, but really, so I'm a high school teacher and a lot of my students are really into chess right now. They love chess. It's really popular amongst like some of the younger generation. So like I've been kind of like, as a result, I've been like checking out a lot of chess stuff and like, kind of getting interested in it myself because by proximity, I'm getting hyped up about chess a little bit. Anyways, one of the things I've learned about chess, now to get actually really good at chess, is that like the best players, it's not about making decisions on the fly. It's about pattern recognition. They're recognizing patterns of play and they know, okay, this is the pattern in the board state and this is my response. So like, it's this experience profile of building a pattern profile and like being able to recognize those patterns very quickly and make the moves that are best for your position. And Marvel Snap is so similar. Like Marvel Snap being able to identify that this is a, you know, a Spectrum destroyer list, right? And being able to play accordingly. This is going to be a Silver Surfer list. This is a Zabu list. I got to be aware of the Spooner Man into Absorbing Man combination. Being able to identify what's being played against you relatively early and having a strategy in advance. Not one you're like, well, I might be able to do this, but be like, no, my deck is designed to do this and this if this situation happens. That's experience. And I think that's huge.
I love what you said about the chess, and that's a good comparison. And with Snap, right, like chess can't introduce new pieces, right? So Snap, you have like new pieces coming in and you can add that layer. I think one thing that I've gotten better at, and that has helped myself, is, let's say, Patriot. Immediately, I always tell myself, worst case scenario on my side, I always tell myself they're going to get the +4 from both Patriot, Mystique on turn 6, right? So I just add +4 to everything. Everything, and if I can't beat that, then I'm pretty much screwed. But then I look at the board space on turn 6, and I judge if he can even pull that off, or if there's Cosmos in play. But Patriot, that's one example. Same as Silver Surfer. I see Brood immediately. +3 across the board, right? And you can know the power that you then have to beat at that lane. And you can identify that a lot more early. Or you see the Brood lane and you say, I'm done. Not even going to go for that lane. I'll go for these 2 lanes. Destroyer. I'm going to challenge the armor lane, not one of the possible destroyer lanes, right? So there are things to learn with the power that you have to beat. And in my opinion, the sooner you can learn that in the, not all the meta decks, but just the top combinations, it's going to help you tremendously with your snap decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, you said snap decisions. Being able to identify when you got to snap, when you got to retreat is critical. And that's probably what your next point was. Because once you start kind of playing a deck and you start to build that experience profile with that deck and you start to build an experience profile of what they're playing against you as well, you can then identify like, okay, I don't have my combo pieces. They just played Zabu on 3 and they snapped. I'm out. I'm out. I'm not playing this through. Like, there's no point. Take your 1 cube. It's not a loss. You're giving up 1 cube to fight another day. Because if they're dropping Zabu on 3 and they're snapping on you and you don't have your pieces and you go next turn, you doubled your losses.
Oh,
yes, something miraculous might happen. But you know what? Go next. Go next.
That was my leading should you snap. I was going to say Zabu turn 3, snap or retreat. And they have it, you don't, right? So like that is some of the ones we are going to do. And I think, guys, yeah, that that's the biggest point. Like Mr. Negative, people that don't see how that deck works, it's not that it's going to be winning like 8 cube, 8 cube, 8 cube. It's more of you retreat when you don't have the combos, you stay when you do, and you snap. And then over time, you're going to end up having such a net positive amount of cubes in general.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up an excellent point because, like, for instance, there's also different scenarios where, like, you could have a game that if you retreat, you're losing 2 cubes, and if you go, you're risking 8. Like, that is a situation you're like, don't take a 50-50 there.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, I'm giving up 6 cubes, Alex, I might win this 50-50. Not worth it. It's not worth the gamble. Walk.
Yep.
Right? Just be more conservative. Like, just that decision to be more conservative for me has rocketed my rank. Because, like, listen, I'm the king of just, like, being chaotic. I will play waifu Agatha decks turn 1 snap. I will do that. But if I want to rank up, the best thing I can do is be conservative and just protect the cubes, man. Protect the house. That's all you need to do. And it makes a definite difference. And, like, again, the pattern recognition is important because, like, tell me this, Cozy. You're talking about snaps. Okay, tell me, would you snap here? Turn 1. It's turn 1. Would you
you're
turn 1 snap
flipping it on
this?
me? Okay.
I put it on
Come
you
on,
now.
man. I got all
Turn
my
1
list
snap.
here. Okay, yeah. What do you got? What do you got?
In your hand, you have Psylocke and you have Mr. Negative.
Turn 1
do
snap.
You turn 1 snap?
Yep. Turn 1. No question.
And why? Why do you choose to turn 1 snap?
Because
then?
I'm set to have such a bigger advantage right off the gate. I know exactly that I know for the most part, depending on the deck, you should have the deck built for it, that I have such great odds to get the Mystique and Iron Man free play. I mean, that right there, if you get that, you're going to pretty much win. And so there are some obvious ones. And that's the other side, right? When you do have your combos, and it's the few select ones that are obvious, right? You snap. It's Galactus deck's been playing a ton of those. Guess what? If I have what I need to have right away, I'm snapping. There's no question. Because why even waste the 2 cube? I might as well collect my 2 cube win. You should snap when you have the advantage, and you're telling the opponent, hey, if you want to see what's on the other side, you do have to push the limits, right? Like, you have to go ahead and go in. And that's why, actually, I know a lot of people that snap on turn 1 often because they're just good players, and it kind of, like, evens out. But I like that, right? Psylocke negative for me, that's a snap. Now, for you, Alex, how about this? We got Daredevil snap on 5. They snap on you on 5. Do you stay? Do you go? And I would say you're 1 card away from your main combo, but you have a good hand going into 6.
I would lean towards walking, especially if it's only 1 cube. Turn 5 could still be 1 cube. If they Daredevil and they have enough of a board presence and I'm missing a key piece, even if I could make magic happen on turn 6, I don't risk it.
Does that change if you have your combo?
Yes.
Okay. And you would stay and risk the 1 extra cube.
It also depends on like the deck, right? Like if I'm playing a good cards deck and I have some initiative, and if I can predictably gap a Professor X play and I don't think they're playing Spectrum. See, again, this is why Marvel Snap's so complicated.
Right.
Like, listen to the sentence I just said.
Right. We'll keep to snap and retreat. Okay. So I'm gonna say the line. You say snap retreat, and I'll say my opinion.
Okay.
Brood. They play Brood turn 3, and you don't have your combo, and they snap.
I don't retreat. I keep going.
Okay. All right. I like that. I would say for that one, yeah. I mean, it depends how far off I'm him from my combo, and if I like have terrible board presence.
Yeah, I can give a location. That's my thought. Like, I can give a location. I got to win 2. I don't have to win 3.
Okay. Yep. I like it. Turn 1 snap, you don't have your combo. So Psylocke, they might have Psylocke and Mr. Negative, and you don't have your combo.
The gamer in me, I go. If I'm playing a Zabu deck and I'm not holding Zabu, I probably retreat.
Yeah, it's fair. If
it's Silver Surfer, I'll ride it out because I have 6 turns. So
okay, all right, and then I was gonna say turn 1 snap and you do have your combo, you stay.
Yeah, you stay.
Yeah, 100%. Sure. Okay, bad locations. It's turn 3, kind of an even flop, right? No one has really anything. Let's say, okay, they snap.
You probably just take the loss. If locations can have a huge impact.
100%.
Like, make no mistake, I'm willing to walk there.
Okay, what if you have bad locations but you have good combos?
They snap?
They snap.
I'm willing to stay. If I got my cards, I'm willing to stay.
Okay, I'm thinking in my head right now. I want to think of like one more tough one, because to me this is one of the more tough. This is one of the. Oh, this is great. Okay, so you're winning. Okay, you're winning everything. You have all locations won, and you have your master combo about to happen. You get leeched 5, they snap.
Leech is one of those cards.
He's so tough.
It's so tough because every situation is so unique. If I'm playing Leech and I'm holding Magneto, I could not care less. Right. If I'm playing Leech and I pull Chavez on 6, beautiful. Because I have Chavez in almost every deck because I'm a total clown. But if I'm playing Server, I'm walking.
No, you have priority, but they have a Wong out on 4, they snap.
That's a good one.
Wong is tough.
Wong is one of those ones
scary.
that like is so terrifying just to leave unchecked. Like, if you don't have an answer for Wong, if you don't have Enchant, you don't have Rogue.
Yeah, you have no Cosmo, you have nothing. You have nothing.
No answer. There's no answer?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I probably walk. Like, Wong is like the one that is so terrifying to be staring down the barrel of. Like, Wong can do so much damage so fast, right?
So I have 2 more for you. Both these are fun because they're RNG games. You're dominating 2 lanes. 3rd lane's Dark Dimension. They have 4 cards. They snap on turn 5.
Oh, man, that is such a head game. And I don't have Cosmo?
Yeah, you have no way to counter.
Oh, man, the gamer in me goes, I think. But that's wild. Like, what is that circumstance? That has to be like an Omega Red, but even then, if you have enough power on the other side,
it's that or Gambit in my head. I'm like, he's about to delete my entire side.
Gambit combo.
The Gambit combo is the one I always fear on that. But that, like,
if he beats me with Gambit combo, I'm giving him the fist bump he earned it.
Yeah, you're like, right? Okay. Okay, so these last 2 are RNG ones, right? So you're winning. Doesn't really matter. Either Sakaar turn 1 or Morph. We'll take both of those into 10+ power card. And
I have 10+ power, or they have 10+ power?
Sorry, let me rephrase that. X-Men Mansion, Morph, or Sakaar, give them a 10+ power card. You have your combos, they snap.
And I got M'Baku, right? I'm willing to walk. If I don't have Shang-Chi in that list, like if I'm not playing a Zabu Shang-Chi list, if I don't have if I know I don't have an answer, I'm gone.
I think, for most, Sakaar is the most interesting. If they have like a Red Skull come out and I have not a card, like if my Silver Surfer comes out, I'm like, all right, I'm out. But if it's Red Skull versus like my Brood, I'm like, I'm going to stay. So that one's kind of interesting as well. So guys, that's what we're talking about. There are hundreds of those. And if you guys like this, let us know and we'll do this. Like maybe, on a bi-weekly basis here, or every other week. And a lot of these come from experience of losing our cubes, Alex, right? Like, I've lost cubes in all these situations, so then I know the next time not to fall for it, not to go for it, whatever that might be. I can't tell you how many times I was, early on, I was killing it, playing a Patriot deck, and all of a sudden I got Ultroned. The other day, I even lost on one I should have known. I had a Misty Knight, a Khazar, and I think it was Onslaught. And for whatever reason, I don't know, just didn't think about the Ultron that would just buff the other. And I was winning by a landslide, right? But then they had the huge power come back. And so very interesting situations you find. You'll get better with it. But in general, if you can predict what your opponent's doing and you learn to snap on 4 or 5, even 3, even turn 1 with Psylocke Mr. Negative sometimes, that's how you become a better player in snap and retreating, cube management, everything combined, along with good decks. Right? So,
and on that note with decks, I think about everything Cozy just said. You know what would be an advantage? Crafting your own list that's wildly unpredictable.
Because that would take advantage of everything we just said. It does not allow people to know what you're about to do.
Yeah, screw the meta.
Screw the meta. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming to this side of the Snapchat. If you guys want to hear the other 3 subjects, you can head to Alex's channel. Definitely a fun one. We've got one last week before competitive battle mode, and we're definitely going to talk about that next week. Helps us out a ton if you leave a review on Spotify and on the podcast on Apple Podcasts. We thank you guys so much for supporting the Snapchat, and we will see you on the next one.